Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a science fiction thriller film, Radius. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins in Woodmore County, where a wounded man wakes up, dazed due to a recent car accident. He wobbly walks to the main road as he supports his bloody head. A car happens to pass by, and the man asks for a ride, but the car strangely swerves off the main road. The man peeks inside the strayed car and discovers the driver is dead with white eyes. He then grabs the driver's phone to report to the authorities about the death, but when the receiver asks for his name, he can't remember it. So he checks his wallet and sees his name from his driver's license ID, but we prefer to call him John. John Doe's John. While reading his identification card, a flying crow unexpectedly drops dead from the sky the moment it approaches John. John then goes to a diner, but finds everyone dead with white eyes too. Outside the building, a car parks over the lot, but the driver dies the moment John exits from the diner. Alarmed, John covers his face because he assumes that there's an airborne virus. John then travels on foot on his way to his home. He breaks into his house since he doesn't carry the house keys. Upon entering his house, he hears from the telephone a voicemail referring to him. Suddenly, a memory fragment flashes in his mind, showing himself on a boat in the middle of a lake. Afterward, he takes a bath to clean his bloody hair. Then he watches the news, broadcasting a speculated virus spreading across the county air. John fears being infected by the virus, so he barricades his whole house to prevent anything from breaching inside. While closing up his house, he encounters a farmer working on his tractor just in front of his house. John warns the farmer to leave the place because it's unsafe, but the farmer approaches him at his house and abruptly drops dead the moment he gets near John. John gets shocked by the event, so he goes to his backyard and tests out his formulating theory. He approaches a flock of crows in his backyard, and they all die right after he walks toward them. John finally concludes that there's no virus, but only his deathly aura kills anyone who is within his radius. After examining himself, 2 cops arrive on his doorstep to interrogate him about the car crash. However, John fears his aura can kill them, so he hides from them. The female cop almost caught him, but the dead birds coincidentally dropping in front of her is good enough to scare her smelly ass away and her colleague. At night, John sleeps alone in his woodshed to avoid more deaths. As he sleeps, he dreams about himself being involved in a car accident. John jolts upright as he wakes up from the startling dream. Suddenly, he hears a woman calling for him outside his shed. John orders the woman to leave him alone, but the woman is oddly still alive, even though she's within his radius. John talks to the woman, who claims to have amnesia like him. The only thing she's certain of is that she's with him during the car crash. Strangely, a dog approaches John, but the dog didn't die at all. Shortly after, the duo enters John's house to familiarize themselves, since they were together in the accident. However, no matter what they try, they can't remember anything, but only glimpses of memories. The woman hopes to learn the truth with John, but he himself is clueless about his past. Just then, a memory fragment flashes in John's mind, revealing him and the woman talking at the Smithburg Bridge. John then confronts the woman if she knows such a bridge, and so they check on the map for its specific location. The following day, the duo travels to the bridge. En route, the woman names herself Jane. Jane Doe's Jane, since that's what the cops and the hospital have been calling her. They eventually arrive on the bridge, but nothing seems to click on Jane. Jane admits the only memory she remembers was being a kid in a shopping mall with her family, whose faces were all blurred. Suddenly, a fragment of memory flashes in Jane, revealing she was throwing a piece of paper to the water, and John was there, comforting her with his muscles. Next, they investigate the crash site, since the authorities have found nothing useful on his truck. Upon arriving on the site, they discover a 15-meter charred circle on the grass. Once again, a fragment of memory jolts in John, revealing himself getting struck by lightning. Afterward, they try recalling their previous positions on the circle, believing it'll help them to remember. John then admits to Jane that his deadly aura has killed many people in the county. He explains that once they enter within his radius, they die. Jane's perception of John changes, because she fears he might kill her next, but John assures her that the aura is no longer in his body. However, Jane doesn't believe him, so she tries to run away. John chases after her and convinces her that he needs her. Suddenly, a patrol officer stops by to investigate the growing tension between the duo. Jane continues her walk far from John, whereas John talks with the patrol officer. However, the patrol officer drops dead the moment Jane strays farther away from John. Subsequently, John chases after Jane, believing that there's something going on between their bodies, and therefore they need to stick together. Soon, the duo escapes the place, leaving behind the patrol officer and her open phone call in her patrol car. The duo arrives on an open field for John to demonstrate the phenomenon happening in his body. He walks far from Jane and then approaches a goat. The goat dies instantly, turning its eyes white. In conclusion, as long as Jane and John are together and not separated for more than 15 meters, everyone around them is safe from instant death. John initially suggests reporting their problem to the cops, but Jane disagrees because the cops won't believe their smelly bullshit at all. Jane instead offers to deliver him to the hospital for a health examination. At the hospital, John undergoes an MRI scan for his brain activities. Then he meets his doctor for a private consultation. During the consultation, John recalls a memory fragment of himself, writing it down in a notebook. Afterward, they stay in the corridor to wait for the results. The doctor then walks up to John and tells him that he's perfectly healthy. Just then, cops arrive at the hospital, searching for John, since he's a suspect in killing the patrol officer. The duo worries that the cops are going to split them up, and so they decide to escape from the building. During their escape, as John enters the elevator alone, Jane stops over a board filled with missing posters. The sight of the missing posters triggers a memory fragment in her mind, revealing herself in good condition prior to the car accident. Jane goes back to her normal self, realizing she is separated from John. John immediately orders the passengers to leave the lift on the next floor, whereas Jane chases after the elevator to maintain a proper distance from John. The duo eventually reunites on the ground floor, where they feel a comforting relief because nobody died. At night, the duo drives to a private scrapyard and camps there overnight to hide from the authorities. The following day, Jane learns her real name is Rose from the car radio. Then she hears a man named Sam, who claims to be her husband, is pleading for her to come back home. Jane then walks up to John and convinces him to go together to Sam's house, since he's their only way to know their real identity. At first, John doesn't want to join her, but Jane worries that this Sam might be dangerous at all. Jane needs John to go with her, and so John eventually agrees to accompany her. They first arrive at Sam's house to fetch him, and then they bring him to a remote place. John and Jane explain the anomaly occurring in their bodies, but Sam only wants to report them to the police because he doubts everything they say. Sam's skepticism provokes John to show him his deadly aura that has killed the nearby crows without touching them. At night, Sam permits the duo to stay overnight in his printing shop. Then the duo requests Sam to ask for help from researchers and scientists to help them with their situation. Of course, Sam agrees to help them since his wife's life is at stake. Afterward, John and Jane witness the news media outlet fabricating a fake story about them to scare the people. Next, Sam isolated Jane momentarily from John to explain her life before the incident. It turns out Jane had a twin sister who went missing for a year now. Her disappearance took a toll on Jane, causing her to suffer from depression and suicidal thoughts. Moreover, Jane began posting missing posters of her twin sister and eventually caused a rift in her marriage with Sam, since they were always fighting. After their fights, Jane would usually confide in hiding in a hotel room. Sam worries Jane was missing for days, when fortunately she has come home. However, she doesn't remember herself or her past at all. Suddenly, Jane recalls a memory fragment during her chat with Sam, where she saw that she was about to jump off the Smithburg Bridge until John intervened and stopped her from killing herself. John offered her a cup of coffee next, and Jane accepted his invitation to join him. Lastly, they entered John's truck together. Jane returns to herself and then requests Sam to buy her food. After their quick briefing, Jane gives gratitude to John for saving her on the bridge. Sam eventually arrives home with food, but he finds Jane and John undeniably clingy on the couch. Sam wakes them up so he can give John the foldable bed. John departs with the bed, leaving Jane and Sam alone in the room. Sam gets extremely jealous and demands Jane if she really knows John all too well. However, Jane remains protective and blatantly tells her husband that she can't tell him things because she currently doesn't know him at all. Meanwhile, John recalls a remote cabin in the woods due to the sight of a lake photograph. Subsequently, John uses a map to search for the cabin shown in his memory. The following day, the duo wants to hide in the remote cabin owned by John. However, Sam opposes the idea and instead wants to join them. However, John explains they need a middleman to explain the anomaly going on to the police and scientists. Sam forcefully agrees and allows them to pack up their things before moving out. Afterward, Sam gives Jane a notebook containing all of the things that she loves to do before losing her memories. Out of regret, Sam immediately pressures John and Jane to leave the shop because he reported their location to the police. Unfortunately, it's too late for them to escape because the authorities have arrived. They arrest all three, but they separate John from the two. The police remain ignorant of their pleas, so the cops and the people watching them instantly die as soon as Jane and John grow apart. John escapes and meets Jane and Sam in the backyard. Sam has no choice but to comply with the original plan, where he stays behind to explain to the authorities the truth while the duo escapes to the remote cabin. The duo first travels to a convenience store to buy food stocks. While shopping, they watch the news on television broadcasting a video clip from NASA. NASA explains that a cosmic lightning struck on the East Coast and damaged the communication satellite. The duo leaves the store and hopes that Sam has seen the news so he can finally address their situation with NASA. While they travel to the cabin, an unknown truck follows them. At dawn, they reach the cabin and immediately turn it into their home. John worries that his situation won't get fixed at all, but Jane empathizes with him and says that he doesn't deserve whatever is happening to him. Afterward, the duo temporarily separates so John can go to the nearby lake while Jane builds a fire. At that moment, the duo separately discovers the truth. Jane finds John's diary hidden inside the fireplace. The diary contains all of his descriptions of his female victims, whom he abducted and killed, including Jane's twin sister. On the next page reveals a blank paper with Jane's real name Rose written at the top page. Therefore, the diary proves that John is a serial killer who records his past killings. Meanwhile, John finally remembers that he killed Jane's twin sister and dropped her body in the middle of the lake. Next, he planned to abduct Jane after inviting her for a coffee, but Jane sensed his true intention and luckily evaded his sedative injection. While she fought back against John, they crashed into a car, causing their vehicle to flip over. On the side of the road, Jane tried to escape, but they were caught by the cosmic lightning, striking both of them within the radius. The cosmic event affected their personality and their aura and erased their memories. Subsequently, Jane confronts John about the truth while equipped with a shotgun. However, John appears to regret killing his innocent victims. Jane then angrily demands John tell her where her sister's body is. John points at the lake, and Jane releases an uncontrollable shout of cry. The duo eventually returns to the cabin, while Jane points the gun behind John's back. Suddenly, a family of 3 men surround them and demand to kill John because they know him as a terrorist. John tries to run away so he can kill them, but Jane stops him because she doesn't want to kill the family. However, the family is brutal towards John, so she allows John to kill them simply by stepping away. The 2 men instantly die, and Jane quickly escapes from the area, but the remaining boy shoots down Jane. As John chases after Jane, he intentionally runs near the boy to kill him. The movie ends with John rushing Jane to a hospital to save her from her bleeding gunshot wound. At the hospital, the medical team immediately brings Jane to the ER, whereas John commits suicide in the lobby, so there will be no more deaths from his deadly radius. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.